So for international students that are coming to Canada, getting a permanent or becoming a permanent resident at the end of their study is a top priority for most, at least, I would say a lot of international students. But it's really important to, when you're coming for a study in Canada, to have a very good game plan and to really understand how the process works for getting your permanent residency, after graduation, so that you'll be well prepared for it. That way, you'll be able to know if a 1 year program is going to be sufficient for you or a 2 years program is going to be better for you. Now, it works differently for everybody. Let me give you two scenarios. Someone that already had a master's degree in their home country and with like 3 to 4 years of skilled work experience, when they come to Canada, they do a 1 year course and then they apply for, they put in their application or whatever in the express entry. Now, their masters is already giving them a lot of points, okay? And the number of years of experience they have back in their home country is also giving them a point, and then the school in Canada is giving them additional points. So for some people, even by just graduating in Canada, even though they haven't worked for 1 year, their score is already going to be enough. Okay, but there are some other people, maybe you just finish your BSc from your home country and you've never worked, right? You are just coming to Canada right away, let's say for your masters or let's say for another diploma program, as the case may be. So when you come and you do a 1 year program, so the two of you that are coming at the same time, the first scenario that I gave and yourself is going to be much different, right? The only advantage you're going to have is having a Canadian education, right? And then for in terms of the number of years of work experience, you don't have that, so you don't getting point for that. You will have to wait to work for 1 year in Canada before you can now apply for the express entry, except you're doing provincial nomination. So one of the things you always want to think about is what is called the comprehensive ranking score, okay? So the comprehensive ranking score is basically the system that IRCC use to detect what your point is going to be, because graduating from a Canadian university is not an automatic ticket to applying for permanent residency. You need to meet the criteria and the points. I've seen some people that have graduated 2 years and maybe after working 2 years, they are still even struggling to get their permanent residency. Okay, I mean, depends on the province that they are and also the route that they are trying to use to apply for their permanent residency. So today, what I would do is I will show you what is called the comprehensive ranking score. It will help you to just do a projection, okay? Assuming you've completed your 1 year program in Canada, and then maybe you already have a experience in your home country. I'll put all of these simulations, and let's say you also do your English test. Put all of this simulation and see what the score is going to be. That way, if I put it and discover that, if I, with my experience now and with this my educational qualification, if I do 1 year in Canada and then 1 year program and I work for 1 year, this is what my score is going to be, which may not be enough, because these days the score that the IRCC is using for the express entry is really high. Okay, so if you look at it and discover that if you work 1 or 2 years, maybe because of the age, the score is not enough, then you have to now think about maybe making provincial nomination a priority for yourself, right? Then you have to do a lot of research to know which of the province will have a provincial nomination that will suit your own background before applying. Okay, so I'll go to my computer now and then I'll do a couple of simulations and then I will do a recommendation afterwards. So there are basically 3 categories under the express entry, right? So there is a Canada Experience class, there is a Federal Skilled Worker, and then the Federal Skilled Trade Program. So the Canada Experience class is basically for those that have worked in Canada for at least 1 year, right? The Federal Skilled Worker Program are basically for those that have at least 1 year of work experience from their home country, right? So this is the reason why you see that there are some people when they study in Canada for 1 year, even before working that 1 year, they can apply for the federal skilled worker program, because the particular qualification that they have in Canada is not adding a point to them in addition to what they have from their home country. Okay, so you have to decide, which of these ones is going to be beneficial for you. If you don't have any work experience from your home country, then skilled work experience, right? Under the NOC A, 0, O, A, and B, right? Any work outside of those categories may not really fly. Okay, that should be like tier 0, 1, 2, and 3, I guess, in the recent NOC division. Now, when you look at the Canada Experience class, you have to ask yourself, based on the situation I am now, if I work 1 year, what is my score going to be? Because if you check the rounds of invitation, or before that, whatever express entry draw is based on what is called a comprehensive ranking score, CRS score. So this is a score that IRC use to rank candidates. So they don't really care that studying in Canada is not a guarantee that you're going to have permanent residency, right? They're going to look at your skill, your education, your language ability, your work experience, and other factors to determine what your point is. When they do a draw, it is only when your score is above that particular minimum CRS score that you will be invited to apply for permanent residency. Okay, under the express entry, you can also have what is called a provincial nomination. Okay, so this provincial nomination here is actually when the province actually nominates you. Okay, you are already in the express entry pool, and then the province nominate you. For this, you cannot really apply to the province to nominate you in this category. It is the province that will look at your profile, and if your work is under the eligibility criteria and all that, maybe based on work demand, then they can give you a nomination. The only thing that you can apply for is when they give you a nomination, you will have to apply to them for them to give you the actual nomination, right? And then when they give you nomination, you will now have extra 600 points for your profile. This is really what's going to increase your profile, the points. Now, these express entry rounds of invitation, this is usually used to track the invitation that the RC doing currently. If you go all the way down, and this just tells you in the pool, people that have 451 to 500, there are more than 60,000 people, around 60,000 people. That's the reason why it is really high. For example, these days, if your score is like 450, between 401 to 450, there are like 54,000 people. It's really high. Okay, so if you go to the let me just go back, the rounds of invitation. Okay, there are different categories that RSC they are doing these days. For example, on the 26th of October, they did a draw specifically for health occupation, and they invited 3,600 people, and the minimum score was 431. So this category, it's a bit different from the normal Canadian Experience class and the federal skilled worker program. Although these days, I always say they are not really doing category-based draws in terms of or specifically for CEC or federal skilled worker. They are not really specifying. They just call it all program draw. So this really makes it even more difficult for those that are inside of Canada that are planning to apply under the Canadian Experience class. Okay, so the one that if you are inside of Canada and you are still in health occupations, yes, that would be good. Then the provincial nomination for those that the province gave nomination, right? The score was 777. Just hold on. By the time I calculate the CRS score, you discover how difficult it is to get a very high score. Then the last one, for those that are in Canada, the one that will really concern them, or maybe those that are outside, the last one was 500 points. That is a lot. Okay, the previous one done September 26 was 504. The other one was 531, 496, 517. So you may think that this is really easy, but let me go to this comprehensive ranking score to do a simulation of calculations to see what it's going to be. Let's say this scenario, you are coming with your family and you have a bachelor's degree from your country, and then you have let's say 2 years of skilled job, okay, in your home country, and then you're coming to Canada now for a 1 year program. Let's say you're married, okay, of course, and your spouse is going to come to you to Canada. How old are you? Let's say by this time you are around let's say 35, okay, and they will ask you, what's the highest level of education that you have? Now, if you have a bachelor's degree and you are coming to Canada to do a diploma program, your highest degree is still a bachelor's degree, not what you have in Canada. Then they're going to ask you, have you earned a Canadian degree? You're going to say yes. Which of the degree, okay? If you did whether a diploma or a master's or a PhD, whatever, just click on this, and then they're going to ask you for English. So these are just simulations, right? Let's say you must do English test before you can actually even set up your profile. Which language test? Let's say you took CELPIP, and then in the speaking you got 9. Listening, I'm just going to do at least the maximum score, or let me do the IELTS, because I think that's the one that people understand a lot. Let's say speaking you got 7.5, listening 8.0 minimum. It's a very good point. I will give a very high score. Reading, let's put it at 7, and then writing, let's say 7, okay. Do you have any other language tests? Let's say no, okay. And then in the last 10 years, how many years of skilled work in Canada? So let's assume you studied in Canada for 1 year and you have worked in Canada for 1 year. So let's say we do 1 year work in Canada. In the last 10 years, let's say in your home country, you've worked for 2 years. Do you have a provincial nomination from a province? No. And then do you have a valid job offer? Now, even graduating from a Canadian university, not all the jobs are LMIA. Those offers you have, not all of them, majority of them don't even count towards job offer points in the express entry. Okay, so let's say click on no. Do you have a nomination certificate from a province? No. Let's say if your spouse have any sibling in Canada, let's say no. And then let's say calculate your score. I'm just going to put in here okay, this is why it didn't bring up one for your spouse. Is your spouse a common law partner of Canada? I click on no. Will your spouse come with you to Canada? Yes. Even though you are inside of Canada, you still have to click on yes to that particular question. So if you scroll down again, you're going to see where they will ask questions for your spouse, right? What's the highest education level for your spouse? Let's say bachelor's degree. How many years of work experience does your spouse have? So even though you've been in school in Canada for 1 year and you've worked for 1 year, it is not a guarantee that your spouse will get a skilled job, okay? Let's assume, your wife was able to get a skilled job in NOC 012 job. So I will advise you go to that NOC, this tier, just to know what job categories you classify. Like things like customer service may not really count. Let's say your spouse have actually still worked for 1 year, okay? Did your spouse do a language test? Let's say yes, they also did the IELTS, and they got like the maximum, not the maximum, at least the minimum good score. Let's say calculate your score. You see? So when you calculated everything now, it's 472. Now, if you go back, the last draw that was held for no program specified was 500, which means it's not enough. No program specified 504. Whatever you had is not enough. And then no program specified is not enough. Let's assume you now go back and say, okay, now I've worked in Canada for 2 years. Okay. let me go back and ask, how many years of work do you have? Let's say I work in Canada for 2 years. So this is only possible if you have done a at least a 2 years program, and you get a work permit of 3 years, and then you can work for 2 years. Let's say if you work for 2 years, let's go calculate what the score is going to be. If you calculate the score, now it's going to be 507. Okay, so you can see that in this scenario, if you, the only condition where this express entry will work best for you is if you must act your IELTS score. Number two, you finish your 1 year program, you have worked for 2 years minimum, and then your wife has worked at least a 1 year skilled job, then that will be reasonable. Okay, now let's say for some reason this is someone that the age is not a little bit on their side. Okay, let's say this particular person is let's say 38 years old as an example. So if you go back and click on calculate, obviously it reduces the score. It's now 492. Okay, now let me just give an example with let's say you're coming alone, right? You're not yet married. So if you go up, they're going to ask you marital status, never married or single, right? Let's say you're pretty young. Let's say you are 30. Okay, you're 30, and then you have a bachelor's degree, and then let's say you come in here for, sometimes even irrespective of whether you do a diploma, certificate, master's, I think they all have the same points, okay, in the express entry, but that's your study in Canada. Okay, but in terms of your highest education, okay, if let's say you're coming in for let's say your highest is masters, and you're coming in for a diploma, okay, and then you master your highest score, and then back in your home country you've worked for let's say only 1 year, and now you're working in Canada for 1 year. Okay, and then we're just going to go the way down and click on calculate. So you can see that your score is going to be 555. Okay, so let me just go back and make sure I calculated all of this correctly. So you are single, you marry, you're 30 years old, you have a master's degree from your home country, you've earned a Canadian degree, and then it can be diploma, as the case may be. Then you've done your English test and you really scored the maximum score, and then you, let's say you 1 year of work experience in Canada, and let's say you don't have a skilled job from your home country, right? I'm just putting none or less. And so let me give you another scenario. Okay, let's say you're a single person, and then you are 30 years old, level of education, let's say you have master's degree. Yeah, let's calculate, say you might have a master's degree, you've earned a Canadian education, and then let's say you did a diploma program, certificate, whatever program, and then you've done your English test, and then let's say you took the IELTS and you got like the really high score, 8777 is like the good score. Did you take any other English test? No. And let's say in Canada you've graduated, now you've worked for 1 year, okay, and then in your home country, let's say you worked for, you have like a 1 year skilled job experience, right, in your home country, and you don't have a certificate of nomination from your province, you don't have a job offer that is LMIA, you don't have a certificate from the province, you don't have any sibling in Canada that is at least 18 years old, and then if you calculate, it's going to be 522, which is really good. So which means even though you do a 1 year program in Canada and you work for 1 year, okay, that's going to be that's going to be good. Okay, that's going to be good for you. So let's assume you have only bachelor's degree from your home country with the same experience. Let's say what is going to give you Now the score is going to be 495, right? Let's say if you haven't worked in your home country before traveling to Canada, which means for foreign, you don't have any, right? So if you calculate, it's going to be 457. So you can see how low it is. This is for someone, you have a bachelor's degree from your home country, you don't have any work experience, you just came to Canada for study, and you did a diploma program and you work for 1 year, okay, in Canada. So let's see if you work in Canada. So you can see why if you have applied for a 1 year course, this becomes dangerous, except you apply through the province. So that's why you now have to think about which province is going to be best for provincial nomination, right? So let's change it to, let's say you worked in Canada for 2 years. Like if you've applied for a 2 years program, and let's calculate that and then see. So the score is going to be 482. So this is something you should be aiming for, right? At least bachelor's degree, no experience, working 2 years in Canada, maxing out your highest score, and then watch your age as well, because the more you change your age, it's going to really decrease. So once you calculate and discover that your score is around 450, then you have to think about what is going to be the best option that I will have for provincial nomination. Okay. And then yeah, if you do that, still do all your research, because the law are constantly changing. And then I wish you all the best. Okay. If you haven't subscribed, do it to subscribe. If you like this video, do it to hit the subscribe button, and then just let me know, do this particular calculation, and based on the plans I really want to see what people's score is going to be in the, just go to the CRS score, just go to just type in CRS score calculator, do the calculation, and then let me know based on your own profile what your score is going to be. And then yeah, we can pick it up things from there. If you haven't liked the video, do it to like it. I will see you in the next video. Cheers.